Well, it's finally here. The highly anticipated limited edition Smart Wool and Grateful Dead collection has finally dropped exclusively at smartwool.com.
You may know Smart Wool as the go-to brand for all things merino wool, from socks to base layers. Smart Wool has been keeping people comfortable outside for decades with some of the softest and ethically sourced merino wool out there.
Well, Smart Wool's limited edition collection and collaboration with the Grateful Dead is back by popular demand right in time for the holidays.
From t-shirts and hoodies to beanies and socks, now you can have the next level comfort of Smart Wool with all your favorite iconic Grateful Dead designs. Shop the drop exclusively at smartwool.com and get it before it's gone for good. Gone for good. That's Smartwool, SMARTWOOL.com.
Loyalty described as, do you care? And I care, and that's why I'm on this show. Comes a time, here we go.
I'm a sucker for Oteil, man. I saw that same feeling that I have, that would he fill the void that I didn't even know existed.
It feels so good to, as Ben said, to try to do something about an issue as opposed to complaining.
If you can't help, don't hurt.
If we could just all get out there and throw cream puffs at each other, maybe things, instead of bullets and angry words, it would be better.
When you stop laughing, you stop living.
There's a worldwide surge in interest in mushrooms.
It was deep, man.
It's not that TM makes your mind quiet down there. It already is. We're just stuck up here. We've lost access.
Jumpin' Jack Flash came out by the Stones. So I thought, all right, perfect, man. I'm gonna drive. And I started driving through the neighborhood, and I got a text from Mick Jagger.
People saying that, what we do is non-essential. Well, playing those few gigs that you saw me at felt pretty essential to me.
It wasn't like they were clapping from here. It was they were clapping from here.
My view of things is that death is the last and best reward for a life well lived.
Like it's the strangest of places if you look at it right, you know?
If you're liking what you're hearing, head on over to patreon.com/comesatimepod and get your bus pass for an extra episode every week.
Welcome back to another episode of Comes a Time podcast. That's Oteil.
And that's Mike.
We had a fun interview today with Jamie Parganos, who is the executive director of a nonprofit called Creative Muse in New York City. And what an interesting chat, huh, Oteil?
Yeah, it's really great. They go into school systems and teach these young kids mindfulness and meditation and give them some tools to deal with a lot of sometimes extremely heavy stuff they're dealing with. Yeah.
Interesting to think about how that would have changed or altered things if that was part of the curriculum growing up, huh?
Yeah. And she said, like built into the classes are these breaks.
Yeah.
Where you can meditate or whatever, but there's like the whole, like letting things breathe, not just grind, cookie cutters, stay in your seat, blah, blah, blah. It's like, it's more natural.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's if everybody can, take that up into their professional lives, no matter creative or otherwise, I think that would make life a hell of a lot more enjoyable, For
sure.
I mean, we talk about it a lot coming out of the pandemic, people kind of just like not wanting to go do that grind anymore, like leaving their jobs and figuring out other ways to do it. And, maybe for this generation or this, group of children that are being exposed to this way of embracing the break,
Yes.
Who knows? Maybe that could change the whole, culture. And
it's like an act of self-love or self-care.
Yeah.
Give yourself a break. Like take a break. What's 5 minutes going to hurt you?
Go take a walk.
Yeah. She talked about the outdoor class, like the school where it's all outdoors. Like, I think if we could get back to, I see it with my son, like when we just get outside, just having the wind on your face, just like retunes you. It reorients you from this, whatever thing you're in. And all of a sudden you're like, now you're breathing more naturally and
Yeah. And when you have to come back in, you have a good tired instead of a burnt out tired, Like if you can get outside and run around and you come back in and you're like, all right, that felt good. What's next? Like you've had that. It's like working out every day. Or like you could tell the days you don't do your routine, you feel like shit. It's got to be the same for kids, especially now.
Through it. And I love how she focuses too on the creativity because, creativity is not just about art. It's better to think creatively about science, about, anything practical, building or swimming or whatever your job is, like to get your creative juices flowing and see different ways to do something is all applicable to other things besides what we consider the arts, So
totally. Yeah.
Giving these kids that at a very, very young age, she talked about trying to get them before 5th grade and stuff. And they're just so much more likely to just accept it,
adapt to it and react. Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Cause all my brain thinks, they're never going to go for it.
Well, those are the years probably that the foundation's being laid. So it's great to have that elasticity in the floor instead of the rigid, Yeah. So, well, thank you to Jamie for joining us and for all the work that she's doing. And she will share where you can help in the show notes if any of you listening would like to, do what you can to help the next generation. We're here on Osiris, home to so many great podcasts. Go to osirispod.com and head over to patreon.com/comesatimepod for a bonus episode each week. As always, thank you guys so much for listening and supporting, and we will catch you on the flip.
Mindfulness.
Let's get into it.
Mindfulness has stopped me from interrupting people, right?
Oh, it has.
Yes, actually.
That's awesome. Seems like a great place to start. How has it stopped you from interrupting people?
Actually, I like to be transparent about this. I have ADHD. As a girl, you don't usually get diagnosed with that until you're like an adult. So I didn't develop the skills that I needed to be mindful. And when you have ADHD, a lot of it is like not focusing on what you're doing, not having like certain executive functioning skills to like self-manage or to be self-aware. Part of that is talking too much, interrupting people. And so mindfulness was actually like the tool that helped me like regulate it. But at the same time, advocate for myself to let people know that like be mindful of the fact that I have ADHD and I'm doing my best.
That's awesome. Putting it out there right up front and going, hey, just so you know.
Take it or leave it. I mean, yeah.
A lot of people have it. I need to do that myself because I'm totally like that.
Well, now I think the whole world has it, but
yeah, really. Literally,
but it's good if you put it out
because
if you throw it out there first, then people know.
Yeah, and and the great thing about having my own company is that I won't be discriminated against.
Well,
and everyone knows. Everyone who works for us also knows it's a safe space. If you're neurodivergent, whatever it is, your authentic self can live in the space.
What does neurodivergent mean?
Yeah, so it's just like a term of, instead of calling somebody like disabled, let's say, right? We say now that they're divergent and like neurologically. So someone with ADHD or autism is neurodivergent. And it's really important for our work, right, as educators to be aware of neurodivergence and in the workplace.
Yeah.
And to me, this is all part of like mindfulness. Not only just meditating, but also being self-aware, aware of others, aware of how you come into a space, etc.
I think that's important to talk about too, because I think that mindfulness gets thrown around very loosely, and it could be anything. It could be doing yoga, it could be running, it could be writing, it could be journaling, it's just like, so to take an umbrella statement and try to maybe clarify it a little bit more, it seems like mindfulness is just sort of taking a beat and acknowledging the current situation that we're operating from, maybe our lens, and saying, I tend to interrupt, I tend to talk too much, and then trying to figure out how to mitigate or manage those situations, it seems.
It can be used that way. Most people think of mindfulness as like, meditation, being present in the moment, and obviously that's the thing driving it. I studied under somebody who is like an expert on mindfulness, and she taught a class on mindfulness in leadership. And she's from India. She had the practice in meditation, culturally, and she also like brought in this other aspect of it, and through her I learned a lot about using meditation and mindfulness in other ways, not just to relax, right?
Yeah.
But to like learn about yourself, almost like therapeutically. It's been a therapeutic tool that I use in many ways. And one thing I learned with her is Mick mindfulness is another concept which she introduced me to, right? So it's this American idea, like the McDonald's of mindfulness.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, there's this idea that like mindfulness is like all about being positive, and there'll be like a blonde girl doing yoga on the front cover, right?
Yeah.
And so she calls that Mick mindfulness. And, I always wanted to be aware I'm not bringing that Mick mindfulness into something, but it comes from having a really deep understanding, acknowledging its historical roots, and not using it in a way it shouldn't be used, It's not like I've heard of people having some like almost surface level mindfulness occurring in their organizations, but it's not really, in the practice and the culture. Does that make sense?
Oh, definitely in corporate culture. Like, it's just war.
Like, yeah. I'm not going to say any names, but yeah, that kind of thing.
I'm surprised they actually welcome it at all.
They do because,
Kind of have to now, yeah. Well, let's talk about your organization. That would be a great place to I'd love to know, your backstory and then how this all came to be. It's very interesting the way we learned about it.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I was a musician and an act, it's really a musician. And my friend was like, can you write some musicals? And I did. And then the next thing you know, I was like, I started realizing maybe I like this just as much, if not more than like, maybe I don't want to be famous. Maybe I just want to hang out with kids all day, So it just like kind of ended up taking over my life. I was so good at it. And then eventually was like, let's start our own programs after I've been doing this for so long. One that like centers artists, pays them well for teaching these kids, honors their artistry outside of work, and also like incorporates this mindfulness whole child model across the board, not only within like how we treat the students, but each other too, right? So how we manage staff, how we operate as an organization. Mindfulness is supposed to be tied into all of it.
Cool. So it's you're still writing music for this now.
I'm writing music all the time for myself. I could be writing something with my 2-year-old, but I am actually like I had to take a little break, but I was recording an album. I'm hoping to do it at some point, finish it. But I am still making music. I'm still recording music. I'm still being artistic. I'm teaching a claymation class right now.
Nice.
I think it's important for me to like at least teach once a week so I can always remember like why I'm doing this, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. So did you have to, all the other people that are teaching and writing, did they have to get some introduction to mindfulness, or when you hired them, were they already familiar with it?
Some people were, some people weren't. It's been, you know, learning for everyone. I also think of like people trained in social justice and DEI as being mindful, trained in a section of mindfulness, because to me, that's also part of mindfulness. Like, are you mindful how you're showing up as a white woman in the space? Or, you know, are you mindful of the impact you're having on people, or what this specific behavior might, you know, those kind of things. So some people came with that background, and to me that adds to like the mindfulness, you know, the vibe of mindfulness.
Yes. So for the fans, where are you doing this? Because you haven't said like actually where it's taking place.
Oh, the program?
Yes.
We're working in the East Village, which is great because it has a legacy of having a history of great artists coming out of there.
Yeah.
And we're working with like a community, and we're learning so much from them too. So it's like a win-win situation. These artists are full-time employees with medical benefits. We got this beautiful grant from Creatives Rebuild New York.
Nice.
And we're trying to help rebuild New York. And, you know, that can sound sensational and everything, but, you know, and when you're applying for a grant, you're using a really powerful language. But I have to say, I mean, we've been there for a couple months now, and I mean, it's just transformational for everybody. Just post-pandemic, even just being in you know, helping these kids re-socialize, us learning even how to work together as a group, you know, just everything, navigating new ways of doing things. It's a lot of mindfulness is needed.
Yeah. And it's interesting that you're working with children, because this is a new, I think, frontier in establishing mental health or good practices at an earlier age. It sounds like you're a parent. Oteil's a parent. I'm not, but I was once a kid. And I'm wondering, you know, what that experience is like for you guys to be, you know, introducing self, you know, care concepts and things like that to children. And if you could just walk us through kind of what that's been like for you.
For me?
Well, yeah, I mean, just, you know, the experience of working with kids.
It's been incredible. I mean, first of all, I use it on my own kids. And I'll be transparent. My son has extremely high functioning autism, and he's got like a 160 IQ. He's a challenging character. And I've used it with him, right? First and foremost, every night we meditate, it calms him down. I mean, it's just amazing. But, you know, a lot of people, they might feel uncomfortable at first, or they'll have imposter syndrome about like facilitating it, but it is almost immediate. Just the meditation practice alone to see how quickly even a kid who's never been introduced to it, or might even like, sometimes I see they like to try to pretend they're not into it, but they're into it. Like,
That's my kid.
That feeling of being able to relax right now. I feel like they need it so badly too, you know?
Yeah.
And it helps calm the vagus nerve. So if like any kids or people, anyone experiencing like trauma or any of that, like it just helps like on such a deep level to like meditate, be in your body, take a couple of deep breaths, calm your body down. We're in like a world that never stops, information overload, and our phones are always on us, and it's just a lot.
Yeah.
So the kids are really taken to it. I wondered.
It's like immediate.
Wow.
That's great.
Especially the younger ones, which is why it's great to get them when they're really young, because they haven't built up yet this aversion to something in their minds, you know?
Sure.
So
like
what
adults
age?
have.
What age do you think it's like you like to catch them before that age. What age have they already started to be resistant?
They start getting resistant around 5th grade, I guess, before they're about to go into middle school.
Yeah.
But I mean, even they will do it. I'm just saying there might be a couple that will be like,
Like if you're starting at 6th or 7th grade.
Honestly, I haven't ever seen anyone like not want to participate, surprisingly. So,
wow.
And then they get used to it. It's part of their routine, right? And it's built into every single lesson.
Yeah. So that's what so this is being introduced at the schools. Like you go into a school system and you now are implementing this into the lesson plans and the daily activities.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's
so
great.
every single lesson has a break, like a mindfulness break, a meditation break, and sometimes it'll even tie into the lesson. Like if they're building an octopus, they're doing an octopus meditation about being in the octopus's garden, let's say, or whatever.
Wait a minute, I like this.
We're artists.
Let's do this. So we're working on an octopus right now.
Yeah, like I want to know about. I want to unpack this octopus meditation.
Well, it could just be another thing. Is a mindful break doesn't always have to be a meditation. We also do other things, like it could be a mindful walk or drawing. We sometimes put like light music on and do a meditation and they're drawing.
So this is like when you say like the octopus meditation, now we're doing like a mindful visualization.
Yeah, we're saying close your eyes and now you're actually in the garden.
Yeah.
What do you see? So it could be like a creative visualization that's actually a meditation, which works well with kids.
That's cool. I find it helps me a lot. I do this this yoga workout by a professional wressler, but there's no weights, but you like clench and you try to like move, and he says like you're moving through
quicksand
or something. But one day he said, pretend you're underwater, and man, it just clicked. And then because I am underwater a lot and moving, and then it clicked it in. And that's a really cool thing, like mindful visualization.
Yeah, and theater people
do that
are
with my son.
good at it. So we have a lot of artists. Theater people are really creative about it.
Wow.
I guess I'm just surprised that the kids took to it so well. I guess I shouldn't be, because it probably is just because no one ever showed them.
Yeah.
I mean, it's weird.
Well,
That's
I think
great.
about when we were in school, I don't know about you guys, but if we needed a break or if maybe the lesson ended before the bell rang or whatever, our teacher just said, put your head down. Like we would just put our head on the desk and that was it. Like we would just little kid. I remember when we were younger, like that was it. Just like put your head down on the desk and rest. Did they ever do that with you, or was that ever?
We didn't have that.
No, and that was just.
If we had a rest, you were getting in trouble. Go to the principal's office. Otherwise it was.
Yeah, Jamie, you guys did that too. Just kind of like put your head down and rest.
We did, and it's sort of a form of that, I guess, but with a little more intentionality, right?
Yeah, there was no intention. I think it was just to keep us in our seats. I think that was like the teachers going like. Ran out of stuff to do before the end of the day.
Yeah, I can order you to stop everything. And you have to.
So what's interesting about how we work the mindfulness break is that it's actually part of the creative process.
Right. Yeah, that's
so
cool.
Like we created this idea of the creative process, and whenever you're creative, the idea is that there's a part where you take a break, right? At least you're supposed to.
Yeah.
Some guys like to keep going. I read something once about an artist that was like sculpting. I know it was Michelangelo, and he was like doing it for like 24 hours and went to the bathroom on himself. All right, that's not very mindful.
Manic mindfulness.
That's a different kind of creativity, right?
Yeah,
but at the same time, in studying creativity and doing it myself, I always like to let things ruminate in my subconscious for a little while,
Sure.
And so the idea is this break, it becomes in a point in the lesson where they need it creatively too. Like their brain needs a break from thinking about that And then after the break happens and all this loose visualization or whatever it is, meditation, relaxing. Now they came back and they're like, they might have a new idea, or they might, something about the rest allowed them to like reset also in like being more creative and.
Yeah.
Well, I think in an impatient world, it's also it's reinforcing like patience. It's reinforcing like, don't be reactive, like take a moment, and whether it's a minute or a day or you don't have to react right away. You just like kind of give it a period of time. And to learn that you're like setting that into the foundation of their, process moving forward, which, man, think back. I mean, if we had that as part of the curriculum throughout the past 40, 50, 60 years, how different things might be.
I wish I could go into like every single classroom in the United States. Yeah. I swear, I'm not even kidding.
Yeah. In every corporate boardroom. It's just not our culture. Our culture is to grind. Yeah. You grind and grind and grind. You drink more coffee and you keep grinding. And then if you just can't do any more, then you stop and sleep for 4 hours. And then you get up and grind again. And it's just like, wow. You wonder why people have a midlife crisis.
Which are probably happening earlier and earlier at this point. I bet midlife crises are happening at like 30 now,
Well, that's what
at 7. My kid's having one. I'm just kidding.
That's what that's also what the pills are for, Let's just keep everything dulled out, Wow. But it's funny because I've been reading about all these the greatest scientists, from Einstein to Max Planck, and the head of the American space program, the Russian space program, and the Chinese. They're all like super scientists, but they all say that their solutions to things come from these breaks that you talk about. They're like, I just stopped and went canoeing. That's what's Einstein. He was real sick canoeing.
I researched it,
It's the break. It's that it actually comes from the unknown. It's a mystical thing. And you would think these guys are all hard science, but they'll all tell you, this is how I did it. Jack Parsons, JPL lab is what got us to outer space.
Yeah.
Like it's natural. It's natural to take a beat.
Getting out of your own way.
It's actually natural to be creative too, but what I found out through my research is that they unlearn it. People unlearn it.
We unlearn it. We like stamp it out.
Yeah.
That's why I think some artists are really like shunned, because it's subversive. It goes against the culture and they know it. They're like, oh, we got to stop that from happening.
It's psychopath. When you put it that way, yes, it's true though.
It's really, you see, it's funny, man. Not funny.
Well, and growing up, how did you first start to recognize that you had ADHD or maybe like issues with focus or attention and things to that effect?
I didn't. That's the sad part. I was a straight A student, so it was like went under the radar that I kept getting an N in conduct, and that people thought I was like an asshole that interrupts people all the time. Are you allowed to curse? I'm sorry.
Sure. Yes. Of course. Yeah.
But I actually didn't find out till I got older. Yeah. And it was through, I think, these mindfulness, like just like doing these self-reflections and having her be a person who, so incredible. She should be doing the interview. She's incredible. Teaching me that about neurodivergence and social justice and like all the different identities and how intersectionality can play out in all of this was huge for me. And it made me realize that I had ADHD when I started to unpack my identity and noticing like, oh yeah, wait, it runs in the family. And like, this guy has it. And I went to a doctor and it was like, oh, no wonder why I struggled for like 30 years.
Yeah, that's me too. What's her name again?
What's my name?
No, her name.
Oh,
the lady
Latha Punamali.
And let's talk about her some. What's her What is her background? How did you meet her? What?
She's the chairman of the management department at the New School for Social Research, and I was getting my master's degree in nonprofit management. And I started working for her actually, and I was helping her as her assistant, running the social justice panel, like a panel that happened online. And so every week we'd meet with different panelists and talk about, how they were advancing social justice in their field or, whatever it was. One of the panels we did was mindfulness, and I was on it actually. And so, we discussed mindfulness and leadership and what that looks like.
So just in hanging with her, she helped you realize these things about yourself to kind of self-diagnose yourself better?
Well, I started out getting suspicious, but I was actually diagnosed by somebody else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Isn't it interesting when you just kind of like, you're used to a certain way of maybe thinking or a certain way of processing things for so long that when you realize it's maybe not the most effective way, you go like, oh shit, it's been like this the whole time.
Yeah.
And then like, I tend to think about it. I explain it to people like two different ways. Sometimes I feel like I have like 100 balloons in my hand and I'm trying to hold on to all of them and one slips away and I let go of the other 99 to try to chase that one. And then I'm like, oh shit. And then I got to go grab all the others and pull them, like as far as thoughts, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then,
yeah.
And then other times it's like,
good.
I feel like I've got like one of those like the movie theater hot dog machine. And it's like, there's 8 hot dogs cooking all at once. And those are my thoughts, but I only have this much of a window until another thought comes, you know what I mean? And it's trying to keep track of all those. And I had to like, my wife actually was a huge help with, she's like, she could tell I was incredibly disorganized, but not on purpose, more just like as a frustration. Like I would like set out to do things, but I'd start one thing and end up doing something another hot dog comes into the and I'm like, I leave the water running, but now I'm like ironing a shirt or whatever, and it's that type of thing. And then she kind of started to made me like making lists actually turned out to be like one of the most like life-changing things, because it's like you write it down and it's like, okay, get that done. You know what I mean? And that even became sort of like a meditation to me where, I have to do it daily. I've gotten out of bed and like, I have to go write and I have to wake up to a list, and otherwise I feel like completely lost that day.
I do that too, where there's like when I have my list, those lines that have checked them off.
Oh, feels good.
Like, yeah, that's like I know that's probably a little bit of my obsessive compulsive, but you got to use these things.
Right.
Like we interviewed Peter Shapiro, this entrepreneur who puts on these big concerts, and he said something so cool. He was like, to do what I do, ADHD is partially a superpower.
Yeah.
But I have to use it. So it's like, there's also that approach where like, I could use it too.
Yeah.
But you have to really be able to be mindful, be aware of how it's all working, like big picture.
Yeah.
Before you can do that kind of thing, you're just a slave to it. Sometimes, like with me, for decades,
yeah.
But I feel like, do you find this like there's two approaches? Like you could there's multiple approaches, but it seems hard to like change a decades long habit, which is just now the road has been traveled so much. But then on the other side, there's the weight of holding on to it. And maybe if I could just get brave enough to just stop, just like put it down and leave it behind, like how do you change those things?
What do you mean by put it behind? Like,
well, just like let go of it. Like I didn't smoke a lot, but I used to smoke cigarettes.
Yeah.
Probably about a pack a week. So it was a little easier for me than other people. But it had just become a habit after so long. And finally, I just, instead of the fear of like, how am I going to change that? I just got tired of the weight of it still being there. And I was like, man, you just have to let it go. So it was terrifying, like figuring out what I'm going to do with all this new time. But I also felt like I'm not carrying the weight of that anymore. So there was a lot of good stuff that came with my fear of what am I going to do now, you know? And I don't know, with kids, like, maybe is it just the slowing down itself that helps you get there?
I think everybody just needs time to focus on themselves and their body. But with the kids and the ADHD specifically, is that what you're asking?
Or just in general? I mean, I know there's no one solution for everybody dealing with their crap that they've got, you know? Like I would think for kids in underprivileged situations, anxiety would be a big thing.
Yeah, trauma, PTSD, which I do a lot of trauma-informed care. That's part of being mindful, in my opinion, too. Being mindful about each child's individual needs and not framing them as a disability is really important to me. Like you said, ADHD is a superpower. And having my own children has sort of like helped me with this. And I actually, like, we've been talking a lot about it with the staff. I'm like, let's stop talking about this as a difficult behavior, but as like, this is an individual child's, you know, behavior, right? This is their way of being, right? A child that can't sit still in class, that was me. Now I am so happy to be there for those children, right? Because a lot of the times what will happen is educators are constantly correcting that person, right? So they're constantly being told, sit in your seat, sit in your seat, sit in your seat. So all day you're being told you're not doing it right. You're not doing it right. That's what you're hearing. How do I know this? I was this child. You know, I could get A's in algebra, but, you know, if I was getting an N in conduct, it still didn't make me feel good, right? So I try to start thinking like, okay, well, what are we doing? Let's have like a piece of clay for her to play with, because now she'll be able to sit still because her hands are busy. And that mindfulness of each child's individual like space, the mindfulness about the language we use, how it frames. I'm not sure if you were expecting mindfulness to go this far. But
no, I'm thinking about with my own kids. All those things I think about. How are you saying this to them? How's that making them feel? How are you framing it? Because a lot of our psychology is behavior modification, not actually trying to fix the kid. So it's like, give him a pill, so he'll sit there in that spot.
And
right?
it's usually because we want people that are different to adapt to a style that other people have.
Yes,
who's to say
cookie
ADHD
cutter.
is wrong? Let's just imagine if we were in the woods. ADHD comes in handy, you know? You're like, ready.
It's fight or flight.
Yes.
What's up, everybody? This is Mike, and today's show is sponsored by Sunset Lake CBD, a Vermont hemp farm crafting affordable CBD products designed to help with stress and sleep without breaking the bank.
Sunset Lake CBD is a majority employee-owned hemp farm located just outside of one of our favorite places, Burlington, Vermont. For years, Sunset Lake was a dairy farm producing milk for Ben & Jerry's ice cream. We had them on the podcast. In 2019, they diversified and started growing hemp for CBD.
And Sunset Lake CBD crafts products with hemp grown on their family farm and ships them directly to the customer, cutting out all the cost associated with getting on the shelves at stores. They have CBD products for every occasion and offer tinctures, salves, edibles, coffee, smokables, and even for that anxious dog of yours, they have pet products.
Ooh, I need to get some for my dog that's barking all the time. But I'll tell you this. I use these. The Sour Bears.
So good.
They are CBD gummies. I literally, no joke, I take these every night. They help me sleep. And it's almost bedtime.
Yep. And I still, as said it before, I'll say it again. You go to a long show, you come home, my 42-year-old ankles are not what they used to be. And I rub that salve all over them and put them up, enjoy a nice cocktail, and just let it ooze right into those sore bones. And you know what, folks? All you Comes a Time fans, if you check them out at sunsetlakecbd.com and use promo code TIME, TIME, you'll get 20% off all products. That's sunsetlakecbd.com. Use promo code TIME, 20% off all products. Sunset Lake CBD, farmer owned, Vermont grown. Thank you.
Get you some.
Yeah, survival. Yeah.
Yeah, it just doesn't work in like this really structured, like the thing we've created out of our lives, which is actually not natural. So who's wrong? I don't know. Is it the people with ADHD? But either way, I mean, that's philosophical and existential questions, but you know, why are we considering that as like that person's disabled?
Well, one of the things I remember I heard this on an interview with someone who was they were talking to their therapist and they were talking about the progress and she said, the therapist said to the patient or client, she said, when you came in here, you were in the middle of the ocean treading water. You were barely keeping your head above water. And little by little, that ocean turned into a lake, which turned into a pond, which turned into a river, and now it's a puddle. And you're standing over that puddle and it's not taking control of you, but you acknowledge that it's there. And the client goes, when can we get rid of the puddle? When's the puddle going to go away? And she goes, it's never going to go away. It's always going to be there. But realize that
you're not drowning.
You're not drowning in the puddle. And that's something I think that like is an incredible way of looking at these things that we deal with, that we're all dented. So we all have these things that we were either nature or nurture. You know, some people need a medication. Some people don't. Some people need, a little bit of guidance or restructuring or help, just someone to go like, you're not alone in this, and it turns that, tide pool that's pulling you under into a manageable, puddle that you're able to go like, all right, like every now and then my feet might get wet, but I'm not going to die. I'm not going to drown and I'm not going to feel, and just I couldn't even imagine as a kid how helpful that must be in certain, I mean, in any real, like, societal situation, because kids are trying to figure it all out. But just to be able to know,
kids that are going through really, really hard stuff.
Sure, of course.
Like
which
really
most probably, I bet the percentage is getting higher and higher of who. Yeah, I mean, having to have a conversation with a kid about like guns in school and stuff like that, and shootings and all of this. Like, how the hell are you? I don't know how kids do it. So I mean, to be able to, like learn those traits and say like, you could turn that drowning feeling into just, the puddle. I like that analogy because like you're saying, it's not maybe a disability. It could be something that we learn to manage it and use it as a superpower if possible,
I mean, it's good sides and bad sides. Like, I know for myself and my son, our ADHD, I could see the superpower side, but I also want both of us to have the part where we have tools to sit.
Yeah.
When we don't want to, because me and Nigel can both sit for really, really long times if it's something we like video games or music,
Yeah.
But now when you don't really want to sit, what are your tools to like, okay, I'm on a plane for 14 hours going to Iceland or wherever, like I need to be able to
I agree. And it's about like finding a happy ground between the two, right? Like allowing the child, like meeting them halfway, right? Or meeting them where they are actually is what we try to do, but also teaching them skills that'll help them survive in other environments, but also making some accommodations for them once in a while. And even in work, like with other adults, making accommodations, being mindful of other people's work styles or.
Yeah.
I think the pandemic gave
that. We don't have this like colonial thing, one size fits all framework, you know?
Exactly. I mean, we changed our whole kid's school because of that. And he started out in Montessori. He's super smart, like way ahead in some of these things, and then emotionally, just like me, socially not as aware, executive function, all that stuff. Like when he got diagnosed, I was like, Jesus, that's me. That's me. So then we put him back in Montessori where they won't make him sit. He's so friggin' happy every day going to school now. Comes home happy. And he was in this other school for 2 years where he was far ahead of the other kids. And he dreaded, he was like, I'm so bored. They just make me sit there. And then he showed me the homework and it was like, wow. I just told him, I was like, he's got a point. Like, he's right. So let him be with some kids that are older where he excels. And then he'll be with his age or younger where he's like maybe emotionally less mature,
My son's in that kind of
because they're all together.
Yeah. And that's exactly why it works for him too.
Yeah, if we can make accommodations for them, I think those will affect his career choices also. Where like me, I'm not in a corporate environment because I was scared out of it. I was like, I won't last a day in that crap. Like, I got to be a musician or something, a dancer, or, I just couldn't be in that cookie cutter thing. And that's how our educational system is. It's just like to roll you into the factory or the middle management or whatever,
Yeah.
But nowadays you need executive functioning skills to be a musician because it's like you got to run your own business. You got to run your own,
Yeah.
But that's where kind of my ADHD could kind of be a superpower because it was like, all right, I got to manufacture the CDs. I got to write the music, record it. I got to sell it. I got to drive. I got to book the hotel rooms. I got to, get all the music ready for everybody. And so, yeah, I could use it in that sense when it was something that I was like emotionally invested in, but not in like a corporate cubicle for some stuff that I don't care at all about.
Yeah,
I'm the same.
Yeah, of course. And we had the kind of like we were presented this sort of fear in high school early on that like you had to get the SAT score to get into the right school, and you had to take out as many financial loans as you needed to in order to get to that university level, or else you're going to end up being a total failure and blah, blah, blah. And then you get through with undergrad and they're like, oh, that degree isn't really worth anything anymore. So you need to get a master's degree and you got to go further. And there was just this level of like, just churning and never feeling like you've gotten enough accomplished. And this sort of, I mean, I'd never wanted to go to, like, all I enjoyed doing in high school was like, I wanted to open a landscaping company. That's like all I wanted to do was just go cut lawns, be outside, like but I was like, they came to our school and set up and were like, we're from the student like loan, whatever, like this is how you do it. You need to take these standardized tests. And it was all of a sudden, all these square pegs are trying to like cram into round holes, and it was like, and then you're in college and you're like, what the fuck am I doing here? Like, this is silly. Like, I hate it.
And how many debt now is a different story than.
Oh my God, I know. And
30,
the minute you get to college and you're walking through the courtyard, they have a booth set up that's like, sign up for this MasterCard and you get 3 free posters or whatever for your dorm room. So then you got now that debt, and it's also you're trying to figure out just who the hell you are at 17 or 18. So it's like, you're right about this like, non-conventional way of like, it would have been cool back then if someone said, you don't have to figure it out now. Just like, let's just worry about today and like, let's go take a walk or let's go to the ocean.
I think in other countries, they were onto this earlier, right? Like I remember hearing,
business.
I don't know whether it was Finland or what country that was doing so much better. Their kids are doing so much better in school. And they were saying they have less homework, more multiple like recess times during the day.
Yes.
Those breaks,
They
right?
have outdoor schools for little ones.
Yeah.
Where the entire day's outside.
Wow.
That'd be
Circle where
amazing.
they like run around. It's like an outdoor school model. It's really, I wish I could have that.
Where is this? My God, that's my son in Japan. That's my son for sure. Wow. He would, yeah. Well, I mean, he's doing great, but wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, mine is too, thankfully.
So through this grant, are you able to offer this solution to more school districts? Is that the goal? Like when you, like as a nonprofit, you know, running a nonprofit, like what's that process like?
Yeah, I mean, we were doing some like small programs before, but what this particular grant allows us to do that's actually revolutionary is not just the mindfulness thing, but the artist thing. It was a grant to give artists like full-time salaries and benefits while still allowing them to do their art.
That's incredible.
And I actually had this crazy idea before the grant came out. And then the grant came out, and I was like, I don't know if there's a God, but that's why I think I got it, because they were like, who is this lady? How does she have the same idea already? You know, and she was like already starting it, you know, on a smaller scale. And it was always my goal to show that we could deal with some of the gaps in like enrichment programs that happen for people that are getting free services. There's always a lot of turnover, or the teachers don't show up. It's just like not a model that works very well, because it's like they don't get paid a lot. It's hard to get a high quality one. And then meanwhile, like the next kid is getting like a $7,000 after school program. And it really, to me, the real inequity happens in these enrichments.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right? They happen in like, how many music lessons did he have? Was he exposed to like culture? Was he, you know, it's not just about like what school you go to, but what are you doing after school? Like, what can your parents afford to send you to? And also like running around and being healthy and socializing should be part of that, because some people tend to overschedule. You know, their kids, but, you know, we do that naturally within this program for them. And so what I liked about it is that we were able, it was like a win-win situation where we got this amazing grant. There's no one ever absent. There's always somebody there teaching the class. You know, and that alone nowadays, I was just saying to our staff, I don't like to give out participation trophies, but for this, I feel like you do get one just for showing up.
Thank you for showing up.
In this day and age.
Hey, man, it's real.
Getting on the train every day and like coming to show up in person for these kids.
Yeah.
It's a lot, and I appreciate it, and it's needed right now, you know?
So we are in a capitalist society. We need to be able to have the money and the time to survive, or else, you know, you need grants. They don't call them enrichments for nothing. It's like you need to be rich to do
And America doesn't have socialism, right? But what it does have is the largest philanthropic sector in the world.
Yes.
And we don't talk about that a lot, right? We don't have socialism, but we have a lot of nonprofits, and they employ a lot of people.
Yes, they do.
They provide a lot of social services. Other countries don't have that, right? They may have socialism, but obviously we'd prefer to have some of this stuff covered by the government. But some of it, maybe we don't, you know?
If people will come out of pocket that have extra to help. We need patrons. I mean, that's how musicians and artists functioned in ancient times.
I know.
The rich.
Yeah.
It's like, you want art, you know, you got to feed us. We can't make art if we're starving to death.
Do you?
Not for nothing. You want New York to be cool, then you need artists to stay
keep
here.
it going. Yeah.
It's not cool without us. I mean, come on.
Do you see this going outside of New York, or is right now the focus just kind of like building up in the city, and
I
then
think that this could be done anywhere. I don't think that this is geographical.
no, I know it could, but I mean, is that your plan? Like,
Oh,
I mean, it should be everywhere.
My current 5-year strategic plan. It doesn't mean that it's not something I wouldn't consider for the future.
Cool.
Right now, I'm focused on local, like New York.
That's a lot. I mean, you got to, yeah.
New York's a big place, has a lot of impact on the rest of the world as it is. So
yeah, you did pick a big city.
It does plant seeds just doing it.
Sure.
Because someone's going to see it. Someone's going to watch this, hopefully. And that idea will take hold. You know, there's people out there realizing like, okay, man, we got to do this ourselves because nobody's going to do it for us, you know?
And how can
more funders, more people realize this kind of stuff needs to be funded.
How can folks help that are listening if anybody's interested in, you know, like doing their part? Like, can you tell us where they could find you? And
yeah, creativemuse.org. The best way is a donation. You know, we don't currently have like a volunteer program management system, but I'm, you know, fielding some requests for that kind of stuff.
Cool.
And coming up soon, we're going to have like a wish list on our website for Giving Tuesday in about a week. So if you want to check back there, there's some stuff that we want to buy for the center we're working at. We're doing this placemaking project. It's also a mindfulness practice where you use participatory design to design stuff together with the community.
Nice.
So we're trying to reinvigorate the space. We're trying to create a jam room, actually.
Oh, that's cool.
Yes.
Yeah. So like they have a bunch of music equipment. We're bringing it out and we're trying to like, you know, fix whatever's broken, get the right wires, set it up. And we're just going to start jamming.
Nice.
And hopefully like kids are going to be like, I want to come jam. We're trying to get the teens. This is our plan because it's a little bit harder to get them involved.
How big is the space that you guys are currently working in? Is it like a pretty good size? Because it sounds to me, if I'm understanding properly, it's like the after school programs, the students and the instructors come to you, and then that's where
we actually are working right now with a New York public housing like center. It's owned by NYCHA, the New York Housing Authority, and it's supposed to service the community members of a specific housing project. So you know, that's the premise behind it, and that's where we're doing it. And it's not just for kids, by the way. We've done adult programming, and we're starting, and teens.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's incredible.
Good stuff.
Find some fielding. We might be doing some deaf programming, but this is new to us, so we've been really like unpacking what that's going to look like for us.
Cool. Mindfulness
really awesome.
And creativity
and children.
Two of the most,
That's really cool that it's starting out like that. That's a great thing that you're doing. And I think about how important it is to learn. We learn things at such a young age, and things get imprinted. And you think about just like who you may be influencing that may take this into the next generation and beyond, and save how many kids, you know, like. It's super important.
I already seen it in my own lifetime because I'm not going to say how old I am. But I've even seen it when I didn't even know what I was doing that much. I can't even imagine now what it's going to be like. But yeah, I even see the impact sometimes, like people who even worked with me when they were teenagers. Now they're like the president of a company. It's just wonderful.
One of the good things about getting older, you know, because I certainly have had that happen. It's like, wow, you don't know the impression you're making. So now that you're doing it with this kind of intentionality, like, you know, it's really going to spread. So thank you for doing it.
Age. I have no desire to be young. I have no.
Me neither.
No, I'm with you there.
I didn't. That's like all you know. That's a glamorization, because when going through it wasn't like all fun, you know. I feel like more actualized and more mindful now, and like I make better decisions, you know, that right.
I'm way happier, I'm way healthier. I actually look younger than I did.
We were talking about it the other day, Oteil. Remember? We were just talking about it. I had a birthday pass, and we were talking about how getting older is like, it's
especially for musicians. There's a certain taming that probably happens.
If you survive it, you know what? If you make it to 50,
Honestly.
oh my God, it's so horrible. But someone said, why do you look so much better? I was like, do you know how much I was drinking back then? Like, how would you look if you started drinking like that? Give it 6 months, 9 months. You look terrible.
That's another thing, I really like the idea that we're providing like stability for artists where they don't.
Oh, yeah.
Especially coming out of the pandemic.
Like, why do we have to be drug addicts and drunks to be in a band? Like, why can't we be healthy and eat salad and be in a band and still be cool? I mean,
well, and also there's there's daylight hours too. You know what I mean? And getting up and having a purpose.
Dude,
to help others.
The vampire thing is so overrated. Oh my God.
Totally.
A good sunrise, and not because you were up doing blow all night.
Well, there's a difference between. There's like a difference between 6 a.m. and 18 p.m. You know what I mean?
That's true.
Oh boy, is there, man? Yeah, life can begin at 50, like so sweetly. For sure. So, thank you so much for coming on, and
we're thrilled to have you. Yeah.
Thank you. It was like really easy to talk to you guys. It was like one of the best interviews. Thank you so much.
Oh, wow. Well, thank you so much. And we encourage anyone who's listening that wants to help out to check out, your site and make donations.
Yeah, we'll see what we can do here. It comes a time to help out with this jam room.
Yeah,
that's our thing.
Yeah, help us with the jam room. Oh my God.
It's in the universe now.
I'm going to email you now.
Hey, man, email me because look, that's what it's about. We here at Comes a Time.
We have some really amazing musicians on our grant too.
I bet.
I mean, New York yeah, of course.
We'd be glad to lend a hand because
we'll
we
stay
think
in
the
touch.
mystical stuff does play into it. Just like when you met up with the grant people, they're like,
Yeah, you throw it out there and it happens.
Like, this group is special, right?
Yeah. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
We'll catch you soon. Thank you, everyone, for listening.